going to be working on this awesome logo. You can see this logo mark there. It's just a simple mark here. And then I've added some typography, which I customize as well, just to give it that extra touch and to clearly identify what the company or business is. I'm going to show you how to create this. You know, it can be different, whatever you're working on for your project. Just keep the theme around space and work on it like that. And so what we're going to do is just go to File at the top left corner and go to New. And we'll just open up a new folder. I'm just going to call it Space Camp because that's what my company's called. And you can see I'm just doing it 1920 by 1080, leave on RGB in points. That's pretty sweet. So you can see here I've got my artboard, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to drag in my sketch. So what I went for a more of a spaceship instead of an astronaut head and all those other sketches. So that's why it's good to do a lot of sketches so you can get some ideas. And you can see here I went for this one here. So what I'm going to do is just create a box by pressing M, and I'm just going to create a clipping mask. So I'm going to select both of these and go Object, Clipping Mask, Make. So I can just keep it that. I don't want to look at all the other stuff. I just want to have this mark by itself. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go to my Layers panel and just put that on another layer. I'm going to double click and just rename that sketch, and I'll probably lock that sketch too. So you click this little spot there and it's going to lock that layout, so it's locked. I'm going to make a new layer and we'll call it Spaceship, and I'm going to press Control or Command R, and this opens up my rulers as you can see here, and I'm just going to drag like that, holding left click. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to press Control Alt semicolon just to unlock the guide, so now I can select it. And then I'm going to go up here and select the alignment to center the guides, as you can see there. So now we have centered guides in the middle of the artboard, and we can start to use this to create a symmetrical logo, so we know it's going to be fully neat. And then I'm just going to Control Alt semicolon to lock those guides again. So you can see that everything's ready. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to start off with the triangle. So I'm going to go to my shape tools on the left here. I'm going to right click and then go to the star. And what I'm going to do is hold left click and drag, and then I'm going to press the down arrow key. And what that does, it decreases the sides. If you press up, it increases the sides, but if you press down, it's going to decrease it. I'm going to hold shift, so it's going to be in the middle, and let go. And then I'm just going to select a bright color. We'll just go for orange now. Pick yellow. So you can see that we've got our triangle here. And the reason why I went for a triangle, because it's space camp, I thought of like a tent and you know, all that type of stuff. So I incorporated a tent. Usually is just a natural shape of a triangle, and it usually has an opening in the middle. That's why I went for a more of a negative look for the logo, negative space, and that's what my thinking was for that. I might make this a little bit wider, so I'm just holding Alt or Option if you're on a Mac and just dragging this out, so it's actually widening that triangle a little bit. So that's pretty cool. And what we're going to do now is start to work on the spaceship. I might make it just a bit bigger by just dragging out the sides and holding Shift and Alt. Cool. So what I'll do now is get the pen tool. I'm just going to drop the strokes. Get the pen tool by pressing P, and you can see my mouse has changed now. And what I'm going to do now is just go through here and slowly holding Shift just to get that nice curve. You can see I get that nice curve because there's two anchor points. You want to minimize the amount of anchor points so it can be as smooth as possible. And whilst this is still selected like this, I can just hold Alt and Shift, drag the handle in because I don't want a big curve. I want it to come down here. So then I'll click that. And then I'll left click on the point to get rid of the handle and hold Shift to get that spot like this. And then I'll connect it like that. So you can see there we've got our spaceship there. And I'm going to start to build out these other parts. So I'm going to get the pen tool again, press P. I'm going to build out this wing. And you can see how that purple, see this purple line? That means my smart guides are on. So it's recognizing the points there. So I'm just going to do this. We're going to connect it later on. And to go to your smart guides, you can go to View, Control U, so it's pretty handy. And then for the window, I'm going to press L for the ellipse tool, and I'm going to get a circle out. And holding left click and Option and Shift, or Alt and Shift, it's going to drag a proportional circle like that. So I have that in the middle. And then for the fumes, or the gas, or whatever you want to call it, I'm just going to click there, hold Shift, click, click, click. So I have this one piece here. So that's all the main pieces we need. And what I'm going to do now is select these 3 pieces that I created. And I'm going to press O for the reflect tool. And you can see your mouse changes. And I'm going to find the center point. So that's why we have our guide, so we can find the center. And I'm going to hold Option or Alt, left click once. And you'll get this box pop up. And what I can do is just press Preview. And we're going to flip it vertically, so it's going to flip it on the other side. So we know it's going to be symmetrically perfect. I'm going to press Copy. And now there we have it. We've got those all our spots that we need, all our shapes. So I'm going to go to my my Pathfinder tool. If you don't know how to open that, go to Window Pathfinder down there. I'm going to select these 2 spots, press Unite. And I'll select all these other points as well, click Unite that. So what we have to do, all these are united, but we got to get rid of this middle stroke. So I'm going to select that, just delete that. And you can see these 2 points. It wasn't aligned, so we're just going to align that to the center. And then I'm going to select it and go to Object, Path, and Join. That's going to connect it. So you can see there, it's 1 point now. So sometimes you just edit as you go along. So you can see here, this is messed up, so just delete that. And we're going to click these 2, and then we're going to delete these 2. And you can see that it's not connected, so I'm going to select these 2 points and go to Path, Object, Path, Join again. So you can see that's joined there. So awesome, we have our spaceship ready. And what I'd like to do is extend this artboard. So I'm going to go to my artboard tool. Let's extend it out. And what I'm going to do is going to select all the strokes and drag this out by holding Option and Shift. And we can see that I can turn off my guides. I'll just turn that off. And I'm just going to change the color of the stroke. So you can see here, I've got all the strokes, and we're going to start to play around with it. But first, I'm just going to get some color. So a good place to go to color is if you go to Color Hunt. And you can see you got some awesome colors here that you can play with. You know, got some nice purples, even bright colors. It's got some awesome colors. I'm going to stick to the colors that we used before. So I'm just going to quickly do that. So I got my colors here. I'm just going to go to my swatches, select all unused, and delete those. So now I can just select these and then press the group button and make sure this is ticked, press OK. And I'll just make this one to... Okay, cool. There we go. So we've got our colors there. And I'm going to use these purple colors that we have. And the reason why I did purple is because, you know, it's revolved around space. So purple usually connotates to magic and, you know, uncommon things. It's an uncommon color. You know, it's bright. It's, you know, spiritual. It's weird. It's cool. It's exciting. And, you know, it adds that little bit of, you know, magic to it. And the unknown. So that's why I picked that. And also with the yellow is a complementary color to purple. So they work really well together and has a nice contrast. So we're going to use that. So what we're going to do, I have the strokes here. And what I'm going to do now is select it. And I'm going to press Shift M to get the shape builder tool up, and I'm going to hold Alt and just drag down to minus this section off. So now you can see we've made some negative space. So what I want to do is copy it across again, because if we want to make changes, we don't just want to do it on that one. We want to always have a copy there so we can go back. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to round it off. So I'm going to select this stroke. I'm going to press A for the direct selection tool. You can also select it up there, and you can see these round corners. That means this little white ball, you can actually drag it in, and it's going to round that off. So if you want a little bit of round or heaps rounded, you can see that it's rounded off like that. Because maybe the space camp, I'm aiming it sort of at a younger crowd, and it's all about like learning about space, and it's like an adventurous thing. So I don't want to make it too sharp. So I want it more rounded. And then once again, I'll copy that across again. And then now you can see if there's any excess stuff, just get rid of that. And I'm going to select it now and press Shift X. And I'll select the circle, press Shift X, and then I can just group this together. So now it's grouped. Or instead of grouping it, you can actually go to Pathfinder and unite it. So then it becomes one shape as well. So if I change the color, you can see that, which is awesome. So what I'll do now, I'll just make a separate artboard with the artboard tool. I will drag this out. I'll make it white. I'll press M, and I'm just going to make a quick background using the dark purple. And then to bring it to the back, you go to Object, Arrange, Bring Backward, and that sends this to the back. And then we have our logo mark. I'm just going to make it smaller, and I'll center it. And then we have it. We have our simple logo mark of our spaceship, and then we can work on some typography next. So what I usually do when I'm working with typography, so we've got a simple logo mark. You can stop there if you want, but I usually try and add the type as well. Even though we're not going to focus on customizing it a lot and making a custom letter mark, we can still play around and learn some tips from that. So I'll press T for the type tool and left click. Then I'm just going to scale this up so you can see the Illustrator will just make it like that. I'm going to bring it up and just make it white. And then what I usually do, I usually type out the name. And then a cool trick is that you see how it's lowercase. You can go to the top left corner, press type. If you need, you can change the case and go uppercase or title case, whichever one you want. Just like that, and it can change it like really quickly. And what I'll do, I'll go to my text panel or my character panel, and I'll start flicking through some typefaces. So I already have a few in mind that I think will be useful. You can even use free ones like Bebes. Try that one. And I'll just start, selecting ones that I feel could work. So we'll do DDC. Obviously, as you get better as a designer, you will know what works and what doesn't. And I'm trying to go for a sans serif look because it's more of a bold, modern type of logo. So it will fit nicely with that logo mark. Like if you use a brush or a script font, it will look too feminine, right? And so you got to keep that in mind when you're selecting fonts. So I'll go through, and once you start to know your typefaces more often, then you'll know what to pick. So I'll pick Japuki. That one's pretty cool. And some of these are free, some of these are not. The top one's not free, but the rest are. So you can see here, I've already just laid down at my type, and I'm already starting to see which ones are starting to work. So you can see Bebes is a bit too condensed. The DDC hardware is got some nice curvature, but I think it's a little bit too thick. I kind of like this font as I used before because it's got that nice point, but it's also got some, interesting curves in the letters. And then you've got Japuki, which is kind of cool. It's got custom letters already there, and the E there makes it more intricate, more abstract, as well as makes it stand out a little bit more unique. But then we can, customize that and make it work. So what I'll do, I'll just select one of these, and I guess we'll select this one up the top here, and we can customize that because I kind of like this M, how it flows out like that. So we'll use that one, and then I'll just move these ones to the side, and I'll just bring this out, and I'll just make copies of it. So I'm just holding Alt and Shift and just dragging copies out, and I'll see what it looks like. And the key to type is that you always want to customize it. You never want to just leave it like that. Always try and customize your type when you're working with logos, you know, because anyone can just slap a typeface up, but you don't want to do that. You want to actually design and customize it. So I'll go to type and then just go. So I'm just playing around with the words. As you can see there, I'm already starting to see some things that I want, some things that I like. So you can see how the typeface looks, and then zoom out and see how it looks. And if you can print it out, print it out. So you can see there, I kind of like it being all caps, which is better. So I'll use that. And I don't think I'm going to use that color. That's not really the vibe we're going for here. I want it to be clean and simple. So I'm just going to stick with this typeface for now. What I'm going to do, I'm going to make it a bit more bold. So I'm going to go to the type styles and go black. Make it a little bit bolder. I'm going to hold Alt or Option if you're on a Mac. And I'm going to press right arrow key as well. And that's going to bump up the kerning to give some more space, some more breathing room. And what I'm going to do is we're going to edit this. So I'm going to close that and go to type and create outlines. What this does is actually turns it into a shape. But before we do that, I'm going to make a copy of this so we can always go back to it if we want to edit it. So I'll select it, go to type, create outlines. And you can see there that it's all shapes now. And what I can do, I can ungroup it if I want by going object, ungroup. So then all the shapes are separate. And then I can just go ahead and edit it. So I want to edit these A's because I want that pointy look, that pointy just triangular motion. So it's like pointing up, so it's like a rocket. So it's like you're moving forward. It's like a space camp. You can grow, and that's the thinking behind these design decisions. So I'm going to get my pen tool, and I'm going to just use these anchor points as help, and I'm going to left click, and boom, like that. And then I'm going to get my eyedropper tool and just select the background color. And you can see now we have that shape that's covered up. You can see how it's a little bit bent here. I don't know if you can notice that, but it's not completely straight. We can also just go from here and just make it, as you can see that space there in the middle, it's blanked out. So we can, you know, do it like this if we want and cut that out. Or we can just fix it up. So that's some ways you can do it, but we can just leave it like that for now. And I'll just copy this across to the other A. So there you go. We've already customized our type, and I'll just make another copy. Select it all, just copy it. And then maybe we want to edit this, you know, P. Maybe we can even put the rocket in there if we want. Or even just make it a circle. Just to customize that. So it's like a planet. If you want. Or we can just leave it. What else can we do? So I'm always trying to think of connections. What can we do to customize the type? You know, maybe we can extend this out. Drop that down. You know, play around with it. Even put it on the bottom here. So it's all about like playing around, customizing the type, and seeing what you can do with it. You can even probably extend these out as well. But I'm kind of liking this so far. I'll make another copy. And I think I'm happy with this. So what I'll do, I'll just group these all together. And what I'm going to do is select it. And I want to make it transparent and get rid of all these shapes. So I'm going to press Shift M and just minus these shapes off like that. Holding Alt minus. And then for this one, I'm just going to not hold Option or Alt, but I'm just going to select this like that. So it's going to plus those shapes together. Alternatively, you can go to Pathfinder and press Unite, and that's going to unite them together, which is probably a better option. So you can see there, it's all one shape now. And I'm just going to drag this across. make it smaller. Maybe we want to have it like this, or we want to have the logo mark dominant. We can have it like that. Just like that. So there you have it. There's our logo. And just for playing around with the logo mark and simple typography and customizing it, we've created a custom type that works well. So yeah, just by making a logo mark and using some typography, you can create some simple logos that are gonna, work for your clients, and that's gonna build your portfolio up. When I start to experiment with the logo, you might be happy with it, but it's fun to practice and experiment around and come up with some different variations for you to show you and present to your client. So I'm just gonna copy this across. I'm gonna start to use this. So first up, I'll start playing around with color. So maybe you want, and I'll start making copies of it. What if it was all yellow? What if we had white? And you can see that I'll make it smaller to see what it's going to look like. Maybe what if it was all purple? So you can see there. And then I'll start to test the logo by itself. And maybe I'll press P for the pen tool, just play around. Just gonna make a triangle. And then I'll use the shape builder tool just to minus that off. So you can see, maybe you want to multiply that. So when you start to just play around, but also think about what you're doing, about your ideas. Maybe I want this more perfect, purple. And see how it looks like. It's also good to work in white. And then we'll just do a drop of gray. See how that's gonna look like. So very quickly we can start to see different variations, and then you can present it like that. So what if our client liked it in a color version, and then obviously if you saved it, you won't just have this one version. You'll start to save out like a black and white, a colored version, just the icon itself. What if the logo mark was within a circle as well? So I'll just copy this. What if it was within a space? And I'll bring that to the front there. So what if it was like that? Would it work? If I extended it, how would that look? So you start to ask yourself questions and start to see how it can be used. Like even that's pretty cool. But as well as you want to make sure that you're keeping it consistent with the brand and with the brief. So you can start to see I'm leveraging that negative space. So you can see, but just by using the opposite, it comes out in a nice way. And then I'll start to lay it over some other colors as well. So it's good to see how I'm placing the logo on a dark background to see the contrast. You also want to test it on a lighter background as well. So, it's good to test it on white. So I'll just drag a box there, and I'll just lock that. And then maybe test it. And maybe I'm just going to use that dark purple because it's close to black. Or you can use black if you want to test it. But I'll use a dark purple. I'll change this. So you can see that kind of looks good. And I'll test it like this. And you can see the yellow is a bit too bright. And you can see that because spacing looks different. When you have black, the space looks more closed in and compact. But with white, there's a lot of white space. It can look like it's, too out of there. And it's not cohesive. And there's too much breathing room. So maybe you would have to bring that up, as you can see there. And I'll start to play around with the horizontal versions. Like, there's so many options you can do. I'm just, going through this quickly. As you can see there. And another cool thing as well, a cool trick, is that I'll make a copy of the letter. Just ungroup that. And you want to have some spacing. So I'm just making copies here. So this is a rule we're making, that the space around this logo has to be the size of the S. So you can see if I'm putting it here, it's too close, right? And this is some things you start putting into brand guides, but I won't go into that detail. But you can see there, we're making a limit there. So think about, there's an imaginary S's there. So that means I'm not going to put anything within this bounds. So I'm just going to make a box. So you can see the box there. Obviously, there's going to be one here too. So you can see this box. We're not going to put anything within these bounds. So the logo has space, breathing space. As you can see there. So that's a cool trick you do, and it's a cool principle to use. So we're never going to have issues with legibility and messing up the inconsistency with the logo mark. So yeah, we got that. So we can see how it works in horizontal. Test it with the other color as well. Maybe we don't want that. Maybe we want it this way, as you can see there. So already we've just gone through heaps of variations that we can actually test and see if it's going to work. And then what we'll do is put it into a context so you can do a mock-up and test it out. And then when you present it to your client, you can make it look nice and then show them how it's going to work within that context. So just playing around, playing around with color, with shading, with tone, with spacing, negative space, test it in different versions, horizontal, vertical, and just experiment, and you can come up with some nice designs that's going to help you visualize the logo in multiple cases and how the client would use it. And yeah, it's really going to benefit you and show you that you're a professional. I'm going to show you an example of how I lay out and present my logo. If it's for a client or even if it's on my portfolio, I'll do it this way, and it's going to really help you and make you look professional, as well as help you practice. So when you get better and you get clients, and then you can use this. So you can see here, I've just done this template. I'm using my logo and my brand colors here. So you always want to keep it consistent. And then the same with the typography as well. And I'm clearly laid out the concept and which project we're working on, as you can see there. And I'm just going to go through this. I'm only showing the one concept that we worked in this class. But usually sometimes I have like 3 to 4 concepts that I'll lay out, and always pick the best ones that are going to work for their target audience and to the briefs. So sometimes you might have heaps of concepts. It doesn't mean you have to show them all. You just show the best ones that will most likely work. So you can see here, I'll start off showing a bit of a mood board. You can see I got my details down here, just some information stating what's on this board or this artboard. So you can see, because it was like space camp, I thought of like tent and a rocket ship, astronauts, and you can even see I got some scout badges here just to get some idea on shapes and form. And I went for some color palettes by building it from some live videos, photos from like NASA and stars and nebulas and stuff, which is pretty handy. And then I decided to go for like a negative marker look, as you can see here, using negative space. So this just gets a bit of a mood board that you can show. Even you don't have to show it to your client, but you can keep it for yourself if you don't want to show it. But it really helps you start to visualize what direction you're going to go in. And then you can see I start to lay out my logos. I'll put it on using the colors, the final colors that we'll probably most likely use. Show it on a dark background, a light background to show contrast, as well as the vertical format. Also, I like to show the mark by itself and even the typography. And you can see sometimes I add some numbers there just so if the client likes a certain direction, they can say, oh, I like number 3 or whatever. And then it's like, okay, so we're going to adapt those concepts and ideas from that one and then work on it for the next round. Then you can see here, I'm showing it in horizontal. and then just showing the icon in maybe a few other variations. So this is just a quick way of just showing those ideas that we worked on. And yeah, but you can obviously make it much more extensive and show it in a better light. But I want to show it in some mockups now. As you can see here, always show your logo in context. You know, you want to keep it simple, and you want to make sure that the client can actually visualize the logo being used in real life. So that's why I'll try and get some mockups in. These ones are just vector t-shirts that you can just make up using the pen tool. Very simple, but very impactful, because you can see the logo on how it's going to look on a t-shirt, which is pretty handy. You can do Photoshop mockups as well, or you can do it in vector form, doesn't really matter. And it's going to help that client and help them see what direction it's going to take. So you see that, and then I went on and worked on like a business card. Just keeping it consistent. You can see the logo and the colors are consistent, the typography, everything that the logo consists of, and that expands into every other aspect of the brand, and all those other elements. So you want to make sure that it all works together. And then once again, because we live in a digital world, and maybe this client has a website, maybe it's a login or a membership site where students can log in and they can learn about space and all that type of stuff. It could be a school program, anything like that. So you can see here how I showed, did a quick mock-up, just got a free mock-up online, and then just put that on the screens there, and it really starts to show how it's going to be used, and it's going to help overall your professionalism and increasing the value of the project, so the client can actually see this is worth the investment. Thanks so much for enrolling in the class. Go to the top left corner and press the follow me button. That will keep you up to date with new classes and discussions I've posted. Don't forget to leave a review as well, and any feedback is welcome, so I really appreciate if you can do that. Make a thumbs up, and I look forward to creating more classes for you. Thanks so much for enrolling in the class. Go to the top left corner and press the follow me button. That will keep you up to date with new classes and discussions I've posted. Don't forget to leave a review as well, and any feedback is welcome, so I really appreciate if you can do that. Make a thumbs up, and I look forward to creating more classes for you.